Good morning, everyone. So as you know, we've been going through Proverbs, and today we are up to chapters 27 to 29. I'll be touching on a few verses from Proverbs, and we're going to look at some verses in John chapter 10 and Luke 15. If you want to get your Bibles, I'll be starting on John chapter 10, verses 1 to 10, and reading verses 3 and 4. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep recognize his voice and come to him. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. After he has gathered his own flock, he walks ahead of them, and they follow him because they know his voice. I'd like to just take a minute to briefly explain this passage. The people Jesus is talking to fully understand the shepherd's role. They know they care for their flock 24/7, and they fully understand how the sheep know the shepherd's voice and only listen to his command. They understand that the shepherd puts his flock before himself and is ready to protect the sheep at all costs, including dying for them. This is expected from the shepherd. This is his role. The flock of sheep are put into a stone wall pen, and there is a gateway for the sheep to go in and out. There is no wooden gate in the gateway, but the shepherd is the gate. He knows all the sheep, and as they enter the pen, he is checking on each one and the condition they are in. He then sits in the gateway so that no one can go in or go out without him knowing. Jesus is saying in this passage that he is the shepherd and that we, the church, are his flock. We, the church, know Jesus' voice and he knows ours. In the second part of verse 9 it says, "They will come and go freely and will find good pastures." This is a picture of complete security, being safe and secure. Jesus, our shepherd, knows everything about us, and we can have complete security in him. Jesus hasn't mentioned a sheep, one sheep following him. He is talking about the flock of sheep. There is something special and important here with us the sheep, being together. It's here in the church we know we matter to God. We find our place and we know we matter to others. It's about coming together and our relationship with God growing stronger. Jesus is the good shepherd who leads us and takes care of us. Which begs the question, if Jesus isn't leading us, then who is? Because somebody is always leading us in amongst the noises of life, if it's distractions, people, or our emotions. I ask, whose voice is standing out the most in your life? Proverbs chapter 27, verse 17 says, "As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another." This verse shows us to sharpen each other is a two-way thing and a healthy relationship. When one end is getting sharper than the other end, there is a misbalance. This verse is for friendships, close companions, and us, the congregation, which is my focus today. We have wonderful access to sermons online, and we can feel encouraged, uplifted, and sometimes it's exactly what we need to hear. Does our faith grow? Absolutely. However, these people that we follow online and enjoy their teachings is a one-way friendship. I know about them, and they know nothing about me. If I were to walk into their church, I would be a stranger, and friendly greeted like one. I am putting a warning out that when we start to replace coming to church with some sermons during the week and a few words of encouragement from friends, and we say, we're okay doing our own thing, we are missing something. Don't get me wrong, internet church definitely has its place. The challenge I'm speaking to is this: is it separating us from our local church? Because coming together, growing as a church and a community, I think is incredibly important to God. In John chapter 10, we see two parallels here. Jesus takes care of us, knows everything about us, protects us, and died for us as individuals. And he takes care of us, knows everything about us, protects us, and died for us, the congregation. It's here in the congregation as believers we sharpen each other, as individuals, and when we come together. I'll say it again. It's here in the church we know we matter to God, we find our place, and we know we matter to others. It's in the doing things together, being a part of things together, and encouraging each other. As we, the congregation, the flock, sharpen each other, our faith grows and our understanding of God grows. In your Bibles, if you'd like to look up Luke chapter 15, verses 3 to 6. Then Jesus told them this parable. Suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Doesn't he leave the 99 in the open country and go after the lost sheep until he finds it? And when he finds it, he joyfully puts it on his shoulders and goes home. The shepherd leaves behind the 99 sheep and goes and looks for the one lost sheep. This isn't an easy task. The shepherd must look high and low. He must climb over rocks and uneven surfaces. He must be aware of predators like wolves. And he puts his own life at risk. And the lost sheep will be alone, calling out in hope to find his flock, and not doing himself any favours, as everybody can hear him, drawing attention to himself and being completely defenceless. Jesus is showing us what great lengths he will go to find this lost sheep. Proverbs chapter 28 verse 1 says, "The wicked run away when no one is chasing them, but the godly are as bold as lions." The wicked. Who is the wicked in this verse? A person with a guilty conscience, and with that they feel they are constantly on the run. The lost sheep represents a person who knows they have done wrong, someone who has wandered away from church or just wandering through life. Jesus is showing us that the sheep has wandered off is just as important as the rest of the flock and is worth all the risks along the way. The other 99 are fine, safe, secure in the flock, and they can face life with faith and confidence. If it's in the small things or bigger circumstances, we have all had a moment where we can relate to the lost sheep. Jesus searched high and low for us, and he is doing the same for the people outside of the church, today, tomorrow, and the next day. Luke chapter 15 verses 5 and 6 says, "And when he finds it, he joyfully puts it on his shoulders and goes home." We see the shepherd's tender loving care for the sheep. As Jesus so often does in our own lives, he cares for us and carries us through life. I have often looked at this verse feeling the weight of it, because at first glimpse it's a story. And when you look deeper, you see Jesus in his heart for the lost and what great lengths he will go to. We are to follow in his footsteps. How do we put this verse into our daily lives? Well, firstly, a few questions need to be asked. Where is your heart for the lost? Is this something you long for, or have you gotten a bit complacent? The shepherd is showing us dedication and love towards the wandering sheep. I think if we show dedication and love towards outsiders, the guilty and the broken, we are tapping into what Jesus is calling us to, and we are walking more in line with Jesus' footsteps. Ephesians chapter 3 verses 16 to 19 says, I pray that out of his glorious riches he may strengthen you with power through his Spirit in your inner being, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith. And I pray that you, being rooted and established in love, may have power together with all the Lord's holy people to grasp how wide and long and high and deep is the love of Christ. And to know this love that surpasses knowledge, that you may be filled to the measure of all the fullness of God. I love these verses, and I've often prayed these verses and up to verse 21 over Tim and my kids. For whatever reasons, and maybe just simply my focuses have been on something else in these verses, I've missed the first few words of verse 18 because they just stood out to me when I've been planning for today. And when I first came across it, it made me laugh. I was like, that has always been there. I've always thought of this verse as an individual experience in knowing God's love, and that we are grounded and rooted in it. And it is. But that is only half of it. Let me reread verse 18 again. May have power together with all the Lord's holy people to grasp how wide and long and high and deep is the love of Christ. Did you hear the together? It's in the together we grow and understand God's love for us. It's in the together that we are grounded and rooted in his love. All walks of life, young believers, new believers, wise and well-knowledge believers, everybody. Because our story alone is just one story of God's love. Add a flock of people and you have a whole lot more stories about God's love. It's in the hearing and seeing of how God moves in people's lives we begin to grasp how long, wide, high and deep God's love is. It is in the together that our faith grows and our understanding of who God is grows. Does this verse in you stir in you and go, yes, I want to see this? People growing together, knowing who they are and how much God cares for them and loves them. I want people to experience this. Yet life is not perfect, and things can hinder us and stop us from reaching out and letting others experience this fully. Proverbs 29 verse 25 says, fearing people is a dangerous trap, but trusting the Lord means safety. This verse is talking about how fearing people hinders us. We can be more concerned with what other people think or worry about how they might react to us. There are a load of circumstances where fear of another person causes us to stumble. But learning to trust the Lord instead is a life journey. We naturally fear what we don't know. It's a natural instinct for us to protect ourselves, and we may do this with people in our community. God knows we instinctively protect ourselves to stay safe. Yet the second half of this verse says, trusting the Lord means safety. We are safe in him, safe when we trust him, over worrying about what people might say or think. When we choose to trust God, we are always safe. It's not easy doing things together. However, The key thing here is to remember to love. Jesus, our shepherd, shows us the love he has for the church. He knows us and we know him. Jesus, our shepherd, shows his love and dedication to one sheep. Together, we understand so much more and how big and wide God's love is. Love is the key. We are to love our church and know God's voice and his teachings. We are to show dedication and love towards our community. It's in the coming together from all walks of life and different levels of faith we begin to understand how far and wide God's love is. I'm going to pass to Evan and he's going to do the communion.